All right. Welcome back. We are going to finish this Yesod out, this chapter 58. So I'm just going to do a quick recap. But one of the things I noticed is that 5 plus 8 is 13, and 3 plus 1 is 4, and 4 is the foundation. There's a few foundations they talk about in here, but this one is the foundation of a spiritual life, of the spiritual life. So Yahshua says, I consider vegetarianism to be the foundation, Yesod, of the spiritual life. So when you're ready to live a spiritual life, he's given us the teachings here, which is so fresh. I want to share so much with you guys, but I don't know where everybody's at, so I try to just bring what's here and leave my 2 cents out. But you guys got to pay attention to these verse numbers. And today's 11/11, right? So when I see 11/11, I think of 4. So this is a perfect day and energy to bring this information, because we're talking about the foundation. Now you have the 4 pillars of discipleship, which they speak about. You can find out that back in the Nazarene Genesis, talks about the 4 pillars of discipleship. But this Yesod is the foundation. And I wanted to show you something because it's 11/11. I'm not sure if you guys know that within this Holy Megillah, they also have what they call the Nasarean Emerald Tablets. And there's one of them on my channel that's got, it's the teachings of Thoth, but he's a phoenix in this version. And he's from Madheba. And if you've seen my videos on that, you know that's the highest heaven inside of the mother ovum. And he's teaching us about meta mathematics. Now, this video could be hours long because I have so much to show you, but when he's teaching us about these numbers, it's more about the sacred geometry and what the numbers make. And he has something. Now notice that this chapter right here is 65. What is 6 plus 5? 11, right? Numbers are a language, and I'm sure most of y'all know that. But in here, verse 70, he tells us about the tetrad, the fourness principle, the foundational squareness of 4 points that is featured in the cube, okay? But I'm going to talk about more about this at the end, okay? But I wanted to just show you, pay attention to these numbers, because there's so many levels here that Yahshua in this book is teaching on, that the more you dive in and the more you study, the more you know, the more you grow. That's what I was trying to say. So here we are finishing this up. So he said the first precept was compassionate vegetarianism. That's the foundation. That's Yesod of the spiritual life. He says the second precept of Yesod was, what are the kashurat, which I think that's for kosher, right? What are the kosher? What are the permitted foods, the kosher foods? And he said to read the 10 Commandments of Moses in the Nazarene version, and then you'll have your answer. He said the third precept was holistic nutrition that feeds all 4 bodies of the human being, illustrated by the Essene pyramid. So you want to watch the second video in this series, because it's going to show you and go into details about all 4 of the bodies that we have and how you got to feed all 4 of them. He talks about sunlight, air, water. There's other ways to get nutrition. He said even your eyes can eat. Man, and at night looking at stars is really good. You want to watch that. Okay, so we're at the 4th precept of Yesod, which is the building diet, the maintenance diet, and the cleansing diet. And he says each practitioner of Yesod should study the appropriate use of the 3 types of diets that I described earlier in this talk: the building diet, the maintenance diet, and the cleansing diet. So you're going to need to go watch those 2 videos prior to this so that you can know what the 4th precept is, okay? It says, in teaching others these 7 precepts of Yesod, link my previous description of these 3 diets to the 4th precept of Yesod. So, okay. he talked about his diet, and you need to watch that. Okay. Now, the fifth precept of Yesod: each practitioner of Yesod should seek understanding of their unique dietary needs and challenges and create their own appropriate dietary protocol that incorporates Nasarean Ayurvedic principles related to the dosha types. I don't know if you guys know about doshas. The first thing comes to my mind is the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And the more you learn about them, you'll see that they are supercalifragilistic, because they have teachings on the doshas in Sanskrit. So to learn about that, you're probably going to have to look up the doshas in the Sanskrit. But Yahshua is telling us that the Nazarenes have their own Ayurvedic principles. So listen closely, even if you think you do know about the doshas. Yahshua said each practitioner of Yesod should seek understanding of their unique dietary needs and challenges and create their own appropriate dietary protocols that incorporates Nasarean Ayurvedic principles related to the dosha types and their various combinations. So the doshas are the three main types of dietary constitutions. The Sanskrit names for the three doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. The Nazarene equivalents are the three creative letters that are described in the book of Matanah, Nazarene Genesis, within the Holy Megillah. Those three creative letters from Nazarene Genesis are Aleph, which symbolizes primal air; Shin, which symbolizes primal fire; Mem, which symbolizes primal water. Aleph as primal air correlates with the Vata dosha, the Vata type of the Sanskrit Ayurveda. Shin as primal fire correlates with the Pitta dosha, Pitta type of Sanskrit Ayurveda. And Mem as primal water correlates with the Kapha dosha, Kapha type of Sanskrit Ayurveda. I did pull up some pictures real quick. I'll just pop over there and show you. So the doshas are the elements, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, right? But let's let Yahshua tell us more. But you're going to do your own research if you haven't heard about them, okay? If you don't know what they are. But he doesn't leave us hanging. That's what he says. The dietary practices of each person should be based on an awareness of both the predominant and secondary dietary dosha types of that person. Teachers and healers can help one identify their particular dosha profile, but eventually a Nasarean yogi should understand the dosha so well as to be able to recognize them in himself or herself. Each person is predominantly associated with behavior and dietary constitutions primarily linked with one of the three dosha types: a Vata dosha, a Pitta dosha, Kapha dosha. Also, each person is a mix of some elements of all three doshas. The predominant doshas of a person is listed first. The secondary, second most dominant dosha of each person is listed second. For example, a person mostly Vata dominant and secondarily Pitta dominant is referred to as being Vata Pitta. Another example, a person that is mostly Kapha dominant and secondarily Pitta dominant is referred to as being Kapha Pitta. In each of those two examples, the missing third dosha is considered to be in third place in dominance, never considered entirely absent. Your diet should be based on an awareness of both your primary and secondary doshas, and a diligent study of the dietary practices that are best suited for each dosha. For example, a fat person with a sluggish constitution might do better to fast and eat raw foods. So, to perform dietary asceticism. Let me read that over. For example, a fat person with a sluggish constitution. I was thinking about supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and then I thought about them talking about a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, and I just went in a whole rabbit hole in my head. So I'm sorry, but let me finish this. For example, a fat person with a sluggish constitution might do better to fast and eat raw foods to perform dietary asceticism than would a skinny, high-strung person prone to nervousness. Each dosha type has a particularly set of likely personality traits associated with it, and is also associated with particular recommended dietary practices that help balance and optimize a person of that dosha type. All of the above is true of both Nasarean Ayurveda and Sanskrit Ayurveda, even when we use different words that mean the same thing. So the sixth precept of Yesod: obtain the best food items from the best sources that are available, affordable, and thus practical. Yahshua said to do that, make a reasonable effort to obtain the very best food items from the best sources that are available, affordable, and thus practical. Grow as much of your own food as your current situation permits. When you purchase from farms, when practical, obtain it from Nazarene farmers. The seventh precept of Yesod: a prayerful affirmation of appreciation before meals for practitioners of Yesod. So he says, Yahshua said, in this seventh precept of Yesod, I give to you the words of appreciation that I prayerfully affirm before meals. If you like, you may use these words of appreciation before your own meals. If you prefer, compose your own words of appreciation. The main point of this seventh precept of Yesod is that it is very good to speak words of appreciation before meals. It is important to note that the following prayerful affirmation is not in place of speaking whatever spontaneous words may arise from within. Rather, those spontaneous words of the moment can be spoken in conjunction with the following words of appreciation. This mealtime prayer is named Yahshua and is pronounced in Old Nasarean dialect, Yahshua. It literally means strengthened by YHWH. But when used as a prayerful mealtime affirmation, it refers to being strengthened by the holistic nourishment of YHWH. The short definition is nourished by YHWH. It is important that the affirmation be stated in an attitude of authentic appreciation. In this seventh of the precepts, I am especially advocating that you use this prayer before obvious meals of vegetarian food, but now and then feel free to recite this prayerful affirmation of appreciation for nourishment prior to partaking of one of the subtle forms of nourishment, such as feeding on sunshine or drinking from a mountain spring. Here is that prayerful affirmation for before meals. I will also provide a short form of the affirmation. Yahshua. First, Yahshua spoke the full form of the prayerful affirmation, saying, Yahshua, I appreciate and give thanks for the nutrition that Yah's way provides us all. I affirm that love is the supreme nutrient. Wow. That's why vegetarianism is the foundation of Yesod. It's the foundation because when you have compassion for all the creatures, that's the supreme nutrient, love. That's where you're feeding on. You're feeding on love first and foremost. Okay, so the short form, he said, after reciting the 3 lines of the full form of Yahshua, the Lord said, a short form is to simply chant the name of the prayer, Yahshua. That name means nourished by Yah's way. And thus, it is the epitome of the prayer. A variation on that simple form is to repeat the name of the prayer, Yahshua, 3 times to honor the creative Holy Trinity and also to build power by the principle of the threefold repetition of enchantments. Behold, those with eyes to see and ears to hear recognize that they were just given a lesson to empower their Nasarean white magic. Others will say, Lord, why do you never teach us about white magic? All right, so that was the end of chapter 58. And I wanted to show you a little bit on the meta-mathematics that we have here in the Holy Megillah Nasarean Bible, the Essene Way. We have a scroll. It's called the Nasarean Emerald Tablet Scroll. And this is chapter 65. And it's 11. See, 6 plus 5 is 11. And it's funny that today is 11/11. And I'm bringing this information. But I told you when I see 11/11, because what I learned about meta-mathematics, I think of 4, the foundation, what we just were brought by Yahshua in this chapter 58, which is it equals 4. And it's called Ha-Yesod. And if you didn't watch the first 2 videos, you didn't see this part where Yahshua said, I consider vegetarianism to be the foundation of the spiritual life. So Ha-Yesod means the foundation of the spiritual life. So this just isn't a regular old foundation. He's talking about a strong foundation that when the storms of life come, your walls and your roof will not collapse. Okay? So this foundation, they talked about it a little bit. Thoth talked about it a little bit in these emerald tablets. All the way down here in verse 70, he was talking about some sacred geometry and how numbers are really what the language of the numbers, and he talks about this fourness principle, the foundational squareness of 4 points that's featured in the cube. So like I said, when I see 1111, I think of 4. I think of the fourness. He says this squared face cube is the universal building block of nature. And it cannot exist without the Trinity. So 4 is only possible because a new point has emerged from the creative triangle. Right? Now, there's another scroll in here that I wanted to show you, because when I went to look up Ha-Yesod, this is what I put as the video thumbnail. And did you notice that it has the number 9 on it? And I don't know about Kabbalah, so I wasn't really aware of Yesod. I like the purple color because I think about the crown chakra, especially with this 9 being up here, because we know 9 is like the highest of all the numbers, right? So it does mean up there. But we've been learning that Yesod means the foundation of a spiritual life. So of course it would start with the crown, right? So you're living your life in the crown chakra. And what I wanted to show you, the last thing, was the 9, where the number 9 comes in. It's another emerald tablet scroll that really hits hard on the 9. Now this is the chapter 63. Look at that, it equals 9. And I'm coming here to talk about 9. But this is where the words of Abraham, and it says Abraham is the high priest of the 7th heaven of this solar system. And these are his words. So in this scroll, Abraham tells us that 9, from 8 comes 9, the second expression of the human in the form of the pentagram. The human pentagram 5 now stands on the square 4 of manifestation as a Christed human being. 9 is thus a number that symbolizes the Christ, the pentagram, standing on the strong foundation, that is universal love. So that strong foundation, again, of Ha-Yesod, he has to stand on that foundation, universal love. What was the last thing that it just said in that Ha-Yesod too? It said, I affirm that love is the supreme nutrient. So if you really want to have that strong foundation, the one that nothing can shake in this world, you stand on that. You feed on that, on love. You got to make sure that that's a part of your diet. In Ha-Yesod, love is the supreme nutrient. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Yahoo.